Welcome everyone to another video here at Target Forge. Today I want to cover what I've learned in my first season in 100 Field Target. 2021 was certainly a challenging year for everyone, and I chose 2021 to be my launching point into the Field Target game. I've always wanted to look at Field Target and to get involved in Field Target, and 100 Division really seemed to be a logical choice for me. So in this video, we're going to take a look at what I've garnered out of that first season in Field Target, and also what you can expect as you walk down this road. So we're going to head into that in just a second. Before we jump into the content of this video, I want to remind everyone that we have a sponsorship from ourselves, or from myself. Target Forge is the company that is trying to provide a quality, inexpensive target solution for air gunners that is quality beyond reproach. And we want to make sure that your experience as an air gunner, you get the most out of your shooting time, and that you, above all, have fun. So that's why you'll see this screen coming up, that we are brought to you by Target Forge. Thanks, everyone. Hunter Field Target 101. Brought to you by your friends at Target Forge. So what have I learned my first season in Field Target Hunter Division? I think the most important thing is, my gosh, just jump right in. The water's fine. You're going to meet some outstanding people in this sport. There are some that have some rough edges. There's no doubt. You're going to find that in anything you jump into, but there are some genuine good souls in the Field Target game. The three that come to mind initially, Martin O'Connor at Diablo Rod and Gun Club. He was not only my first shooting partner at my first match, he has been an inspiration for me, both in welcoming me into the Field Target fold, but also mentoring me and giving me the information I need to be successful. So hats off to Martin O'Connor. Definitely an outstanding individual, an outstanding competitor, and a great match director. In that same level of person, I'd like to bring up Jim Kyran. He just recently moved out to the Midwest, and I'm sad because I really was just getting to know him. And he was also very welcoming to me in the Field Target game. I also will say that Jim has some of the best snacks. If you go to one of his matches, his snacks are definitely top of the line. He takes snacks seriously. And it was one of Jim's matches that he ran, was one of the first ones I ever shot in. And I learned a lot. And next up is Scott, the Motorhead Schneider. Many of you will know him by his online persona, which is Motorhead. He is also another excellent match director, and I have learned a lot from him as well, as we'll learn later in this video. But all of these gentlemen are just the caliber of person that you'll meet in Field Target. Philip Hepler, guys all over the world are just outstanding individuals. I value their relationships that I've fostered with them in my time in the sport, and definitely worth your time to jump in. Great people, great experience. Nothing more to say there. Next up on this list of things that I've learned is the importance and the value of practice. My gosh, if you're not getting out there and getting your time in on the practice range, you're probably not going to expect to do that well when you show up for a match. So get out there, even if it's 20, 30 minutes every other day or something like that. Another thing I recommend as you start to practice for this game, The Italian economist that brought us the 80-20 concept, I think that number affects quite a few things in the human condition. But as it applies to this, in terms of practice for an upcoming match or just to compete in general, spend 80% of your time initially just learning how to get a pellet in that hole in the face of that target. So you're going to be looking at group size, or if you're shooting steel, what your percentage of knockdown is on targets that are appropriate for this game. So everything from 3/8 up to 2-inch diameter at varying ranges. They got, obviously the target aperture gets bigger as you go further out in range, but spend 80% of your time at first learning how to do what is required for most of the points in this game, which is the steel targets shooting off your sticks. So when you're competing off your shooting sticks, your highest probability for a hit happens from the sticks. The next highest probability position that you're going to shoot from is kneeling. And quite frankly, I can't shoot from kneeling position right now. I am really, really working on stretching my ligaments and tendons out that will allow me to get into a comfortable, relaxed kneeling position so that I can shoot effectively from it. So about 20%, initially 20% of my practice time was about position shooting. And now that I've gotten pretty good at hitting the steel when I need to from the sticks, I'm transitioning. And now I'm spending 80% of my time training in position shooting. So kneeling and standing are what's taking over my training on my home range here. And that is all about getting relaxed and comfortable in both the standing offhand position, learning where my natural point of aim is, and focusing on those elements of my game. And I think, understanding that you're not going to get good at this game without putting in the time and practicing is important. This is less about reading wind than extreme bench rest and games like that, but it doesn't mean that they don't exist. So having some wind in your practice is also important as well. Who are you really competing against when you shoot field target? The answer to that is you. You're competing against yourself. And the sooner you get that in your head, the less pressure you'll feel at a match. And what I mean by that is when I pull up to a match, I'm looking around at the parking lot, and I've got some of the best shooters in the United States in the clubs that I shoot in. John Bagakis, Scott Schneider, Jim Kyran, Martin O'Connor, guys that are going to the World Nationals this year are shooting in the clubs that I'm shooting in. So I'm not going there with this illusion that I'm gonna sweep and I'm gonna win and walk away with a victory. I am just trying to shoot better than I did the last time. And that's really the only competitor you should be focused on, is the competitor that looks back at you in the mirror. Okay, so let's talk about what my experience has been so far. My first match, I took my spring gun here out, and Broomhilda was a valiant competitor. It was in stock form. She had her steel piston in place, but she still had the good stock on there. And I didn't do very well. At least in my mind, I didn't do very well. I think I shot a 28 in that match out of 50 some targets, 58 or 60 targets. So I didn't even get to 50%. And when I came away from that, I went into it with some assumptions that were absolutely incorrect. Assumption number one, I thought that I could get a couple of points on my dope sheet. I could shoot at 10 yards, 30 yards, and 55 yards. And I could interpolate the rest of the points on that curve in my mind. Guess what? Don't do that. Don't make that mistake. spend the time, develop your dope chart, and go after this in a way that is going to yield meaningful results. Because I gave up a lot of points not having that data. The next thing I would say that hurt me in that match was it was my first match. It was the first time I was there. I was nervous. You know, you go into a new group of people. You add on to that all of the social stress that we've added to group activities in the last 2 years with all of this pandemic nonsense. Yeah, it was definitely stressful, and it showed in my score. But got my first match out of the way, went on to the second match. And with my second match, I had finally taken delivery of a new gun. I had gotten an FX Crown Mark II GRS, which speaks to the stock. It's right here. And I really, really, really love that tool. As a competitive gun, it is got the stock itself has everything over the JP custom stock on Broomhilda, the HW97K that I competed in the Springer class with. The GRS stock is light years ahead of that stock. They look very similar, but functionally they couldn't be more further apart. The GRS stock feels so natural and is so easy to adjust in its ergonomic parameters, the length of pull, the cheek support, all of that stuff is just really easy on the GRS stock. And the FX gun, I know FX has struggled, or at least has a reputation of not being that great in 177. But I can tell you this gun, this Freya, as I call her, is outstanding. I get single hole groups at 30 yards. I shot a group yesterday on the range at 55 yards. And it was a line. So the only thing that was affecting those pellets was the breeze. And that line was only about 3/4 of an inch wide at 55 yards. And had I been actually reading the wind and playing the wind, I bet I could have done a lot better, but I wasn't. I was just trying to understand my dope at that point. But the fact that that group was a horizontal line means that the gun was doing its job. And I will say that I have found that the FX pellets in that gun, the 13.4 grains, they've unlocked the magic in that as a platform. So I when I shot my second match, I brought that gun, and I think I shot a 32 in that match, so a little bit better than the first one, getting closer to that halfway point, 50%, hitting at least half the targets, but still not great. Again, still kind of new at this game. My third match, this was hysterical. I get up to the first lane I'm going to shoot. My shooting partner for the day is Scott Motorhead Schneider. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy just won the Field Target National Championship and in Hunter Division. And here I am shooting with him as my shooting partner. I was blessed to be in that situation. But I had just switched to a stool from my little 3.5 gallon bucket. And this stool is just not as stable as the bucket is on flat concrete, which is what I'm shooting on. So when I went to get seated for my first shot on this lane, my first lane in that match, I misjudged my landing. My butt landed a little further back in the stool, and I went right back over on my back. And luckily, the stool was so short that I really didn't fall very far. Once I landed on the stool and it started to tip, I really didn't have much further to go. So I didn't get injured. But what I did do was I fell with the gun like this, and I ended up smacking the barrel off the steel support column for the roof on the shooting port. And that cost me about a 1-inch shift in POI. And, you know, when you think about trying to shoot a precision game and you're starting off with an unknown shift in POI right out of the box, probably not a great harbinger for things to come. But Scott offered me, he said, hey, you can go shoot some sighters if you want to get that, understand if you did any damage. I said, no, I'll be fine. I was too proud, honestly, if I'm completely transparent about it. I just thought, I'm already embarrassed as hell. I'm just going to keep shooting. So I did. I think I got like a 38 in that match. I should have done much better with a really good PCP gun, but I didn't. Again, I've already explained why I probably didn't do that well in that match. My fourth match was really where things started to come around. And my fourth match, I got a 41. And I'm like, well, okay, I'm getting better at this. This is better. I'm definitely, up into the, up above 50% now. And my fifth match, which was just recently, I've done better than I ever have. I practiced well the week before, and when I got to that match, I hit a 52. I hit 52 out of 62 targets. It was enough to get me second place. I actually beat Martin O'Connor, which I never expected to do. In fact, I was quite surprised. I kept checking my math at the end of the match for my scorecard, and I'm like, this can't be right. There's no way. I beat Martin, and just by 1 point, mind you, but I still got him. And it was not going to be first place because I think John Bagakis got almost a perfect score. I think it was 59 out of 62. So he was very close to cleaning that match. And I've got work to do to get there, but I know where I've got to focus it. And I definitely have to improve my position shooting, my kneeling, and my offhand. But anyway, that's what I'm going to work on going forward. So the next point I would like to make is, for gosh sakes, keep an open mind. Listen to the subtle clues and tips that are around you that you might not even recognize as clues when you hear them. What am I talking about? Here's what I'm talking about. Scott Schneider made a comment that, he was getting ready. He was setting up, getting ready to shoot. It was the beginning of the match. This was a match that he was not match director at, but was competing at. And he said, boy, I wore my stretchy pants today. I'm ready.
Chancho, when you are a man, sometimes you wear stretchy pants.
And at first, that really didn't mean anything to me. I didn't click. But then I thought more about it, and what he's talking about makes so much sense. And although he didn't present it as a tip, it was a tip. There was a tip there. And it is, if you're not comfortable getting into these shooting positions and being on this very low bucket, scrouched to the ground, and shooting off these sticks, if you're not comfortable, you're not going to shoot well. So wearing cotton jeans or some type of canvas pant that doesn't have any give to it, it's going to cause you constriction. It's going to cause you stress while you're shooting. You're going to feel it in the waistband. You're going to feel it in the legs. You're going to feel it everywhere where your focus should be on the shot that you're shooting, not on what you're wearing. So there was this hint wrapped up in what he said, and it didn't become apparent to me until, a few matches on, when I thought, wait, I'm going to go shopping for some different pants. And I found some stretch fabrics that fit me a lot better for getting in those positions for shooting well from the bucket and from kneeling. I'm still not very good at kneeling, but we're working on that. We're working on getting that better. But having the right pants on, my gosh, who would have thought that would have been a pro tip? Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate the support that I've gotten from everybody online going into this field target game this year. And we're going to continue. We're going to continue next year with even more innovative tricks on hunter field target. And if you haven't checked it out yet, do check out my recent video where I talk about my spring gun dynamometer. And it is something that even if you don't like springers or you're not into springers, it's still a pretty cool bit of technological stuff as it applies to air guns. And so far as I've seen, no one has ever taken it to this level, at least not talked about it publicly. Maybe somebody's got one secret somewhere, but the spring gun dynamometer was a pretty cool video, a pretty cool thing. It was actually a work of love that took a long time to put together and cost way more than my wife should know. So we got to keep that from her. But anyway, thanks everybody. Have a great time. Remember, be a light in the darkness. And check out Target Forge. Get some cool target stuff. Our new range erector set is coming along and it is taking off. And we hope that it's part of your range setup at your club or in your backyard. Thanks. Bye-bye.